All right. Thank you for joining us today for this lovely lunch and learn talking about our veterinary medicine adventures. A quick introduction. My name is Bethany. I do the marketing communications here at Broadreach. And so if you get any emails from us or follow us on social media or anything, that's me. And I'll let Savannah introduce herself as well.
Sweet. Thanks, Bethany. I'm Savannah. I'm the program director for the veterinary medicine program. So that includes the ones we're talking about today, Costa Rica veterinary experience in the Bahamas, veterinary and wildlife care, which I personally got to lead one last summer, which is super exciting. Kind of how I got into this role. I spent many of my undergrad years working in zoos and wildlife sanctuaries, eventually getting my master's in conservation biology before ultimately landing with Broadreach to help students out with their passion around animals and wildlife.
Awesome. Right, before I go into a little brief intro of Broadreach, just let you know there is a Q&A box. So if you have questions, you can drop them there. Feel free to do it throughout the webinar. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. And if we've already answered your question, then we'll just disregard it. But feel free to leave those in there as you think of your questions. A little intro to Broadreach. We've been around for over 30 years, running international programs specifically designed for middle and high school students. And our trips all focus on marine biology, scuba diving, sailing, conservation, and of course, veterinary medicine. Speaking of our veterinary medicine trips, you'll see on the map each of the dots represents a location of one of our 2025 adventures, and the two yellow dots represent our two vet med programs in the Bahamas and Costa Rica. Um, Specifically, kind of talking about both of the trips, we'll be comparing and contrasting a bit, but what they both have in common are they both provide hands-on experience. You'll be working alongside veterinarians or other animal care professionals. And you'll also have the opportunity to work with different kinds of animals and in different settings. So veterinary clinics, rescue centers, rehabilitation centers, stuff like that. As with all Broadreach trips, we focus on small group sizes. So these trips are capped at 12 students maximum. Um, and they have awesome instructors. One of whom will have a kind of advanced first aid certification, at least one of them. They're also great on focused for building soft skills like leadership, kind of resiliency, trying new things. You'll be making new friends because of those small group sizes and trying some different activities, both veterinary activities and non-veterinary activities. So our two main Broadreach veterinary medicine adventures are in the Bahamas and Costa Rica. Our Bahamas trip, it goes by two different names depending if we're talking on about the middle school or the high school trip. Either Bahamas Island Wildlife Explorer for the middle school program or Bahamas Veterinary and Wildlife Care for the high school program, but the programs are essentially the same. It's a 12-day program. And there are three sessions available that we're being offered. The first two are exclusively for middle school students, and the third is for high school students. And there is availability currently in all three sessions, although that can change quickly this time of year. The cost is $5,280, and that includes everything. Once you get to the Bahamas, it does not include flights. And to give you an idea, the weather in the Bahamas this time of year, 80s and 90s, so it's hot and mostly dry. Now I'll let Savannah go into some more of the specifics about the
Sweet.
Bahamas.
Thanks, Bethany. So this trip is pretty unique compared to the other veterinary trip because we stay in one accommodation the entire time. We call it a stationary trip. We stay in a really large villa. It's by the ocean. It has a pool. It has a kitchen. It has various types of rooms. It has a laundry. So it's very comfortable for the duration of the trip. You can kind of see some pictures of it there because it's a stationary trip and we have the kitchen at our disposal, we often eat breakfast in, usually that means cereal, sometimes like toaster waffles, bagels, toast, things like that. And then we usually pack our lunch in the morning to take with us to the wildlife locations that we go to. And then oftentimes we'll make dinner, or sometimes we'll eat dinner out depending on the day. If it's a special day, like the last day, we'll often go to a fun restaurant. And then typically the mornings are filled with activities. So think like 9 to 1 will often be working with our outfitters. Kind of what this looks like as a non-academic program. We don't have credits on this program. So what we'll do is we'll either go to the wildlife sanctuary, we'll be able to visit a spay and neuter clinic. We'll work with the Humane Society. We also get to work with a marine mammal facility. So there's a variety of animals that we're working throughout the day, whether that be dogs and cats, sea lions, dolphins, parrots, snakes, rabbits, guinea pigs, goats, etc. There are a lot of cool species that we get to hang out and spend our time with. Um, with those animals, some of the veterinary activities we'll be doing include practicing sutures, practicing necropsies. At the spay and neuter clinic, we kind of get to see what that process is like, as well as get to see what it's like to be a local nonprofit. And then we also get to learn animal handling and restraint, often with livestock. And we'll get to do diet prep. We'll get to do enrichment, which is super fun. We'll get to do animal training, which is cool, and they'll get to train each other a little bit during a game. And we also get to take a look at some cool dolphin research that's happening at the Marine Mammal Facility. Along with all of this animal care that we are doing, we're also getting some community service hours. Oftentimes, this is just included in what we're doing, but sometimes we'll do some work with some local volunteer organizations as well. So you get sort of that leadership aspect too. And on top of all of those fun things, you'll also get to do things like snorkeling, kayaking, there's swimming in a beach because they are on a beautiful island. The water in the Bahamas is really magical. I know since I was there last year. So this program is really great if you love being around the water as well.
Awesome. Um, our Costa Rica veterinary experience is our second vet med focused trip, and this one is exclusively for high school students. And so it's a longer trip, 22 days, and there are 3 sessions being offered this summer. Currently, there's pretty limited availability in the last and the first session, and there's a bit more availability in the second session. The cost is $7,980. And the weather, this is kind of the rainy season in Costa Rica. So it's 70s and 80s, and it's humid, and usually it will rain likely once a day. Going into more of the specifics here with accommodations.
Yeah, so like I mentioned previously, during the Costa Rica veterinary experience, we are not stationary. We move around to several of our different locations. So we stay in lots of local accommodations like small hotels. We'll stay in one Airbnb and we'll also stay in one volunteer dorm. They're usually very comfortable, the volunteer dorm being the most rustic one, which is not that rustic. And usually we'll have spaces to ourselves. Students and staff will have rooms close together just in case something were to go wrong, which is nice. Similarly, because we're not staying in a house, we don't always have access to a kitchen. So a lot of our meals are out. Dinners most of the time will be at restaurants, so we can get some fun diversity of foods. And then a lot of our breakfasts are provided by the hotels, and a lot of our lunches are usually provided by the hotels or the outfitters. And in Costa Rica, their famous local cuisine is gallo pinto, which is rice and beans, and the students get to eat a lot of that, which is great. But we also typically will have chicken, fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, sometimes fish. Breakfasts are pretty standard, like eggs, pancakes, things like that. And then, as I mentioned, when we're eating out, we get to have a little bit more diversity, maybe some Italian, maybe some hamburgers, to kind of give us a taste of home. And then what's unique about this trip, because we're moving around so often, we get to visit what I like to consider four big animal chunks. So first, we'll visit a wildlife sanctuary where we're working with local Costa Rican wildlife. We'll get to work with a spay and neuter clinic, um, which has dogs and cats. We'll get to work with an agricultural center, so think livestock, like cows, goats, sheep, pigs. And we'll also get to go work with an equine center. So at all of these locations, we're getting to see similar things and different things, just with different species. So oftentimes we're practicing blood draws, rectal palpitations. We're looking at vaccines. We're doing physical exams, dental exams, and just general life support. When we're with the horses, we often get to do radiographs or MRIs. And when we're with the wildlife, we get to do a lot of enrichment and diet prep, which is really cool. We'll get to do some milking and bottle feeding when we're with the cattle.
Those
And
pictures are always so cute.
they really are. And oftentimes we'll also get to do necropsies, which is figuring out why an animal died. And then with the spay and neuter clinic with the dogs and cats, oftentimes we get to see, the intake, the procedure, and then post procedure as well. So kind of following that all the way through. Because this program is academic and is longer than the Bahamas, you get those 3 college credits. And then those animal contact hours also kind of help with that college component when eventually applying to vet school. Um, this one also gets community service. Again, this is usually when we're doing stuff around the facilities. Maybe that's some maintenance before they've painted benches. Sometimes it's just, the enrichment or helping out with specific cleaning tasks. So we'll send a letter out for those community service hours at the end of the summer. And then finally, just like our Bahamas trip, we get to do some fun, or I guess all the activities are fun, but we get to do some brain break activities as well. So when you're in Costa Rica, you get to do zip lining, rafting, you'll get to visit some hot springs. We do some canyoning and also some surfing because we are in multiple different ecosystems.
Awesome.
And then as you may have noticed, there are a lot of similarities between both programs. But if you're looking to figure out which one is right for you and your student, I would recommend the Costa Rica trip if you are already sure that you want to be a vet, you want to gain that like really intense hands-on vet experience, you want to get college credit, and you want a more fast-paced academic environment because we are moving around a lot and there's, fitting in those 3 college credits worth of work. We are, doing stuff a lot of the time. And then if you're wanting to get, hands-on experience, you want to see what it's like to be working with animals or you're interested in animals. Maybe that means animal care. Maybe it possibly means becoming a vet as well. But you want a little bit of a more relaxed experience. The Bahamas might be better. We, as I mentioned, get to do a lot of activities in the beginning of the trip, but also in the latter half of the day. We will get to, go to the beach or do fun games, and students kind of get to have a little bit more downtime. And then also the Bahamas is 12 days versus the Costa Rica is 22 days. So if you're looking to only go for a shorter amount of time, or if a student is not ready to go for a longer amount of time, those could be good considerations as well.
And I will share, we have kind of that previous slide with the side-by-side comparison, we have a little handout, a PDF of that that I will email you after as well, so you can have that on hand.
And if you happen to be interested in animals, whether that be working with animals in a conservation setting, becoming a field biologist, um, we do have two other animal-focused programs. We have our Costa Rica Sea Turtle and Marine Conservation Program, which works mainly with sea turtles, as the name might suggest. We get to visit two different research facilities, helping them do sea turtle patrols, doing nest excavations. What this young man is doing here, taking some sea turtle biometric data on babies, which we also get to release, as well as just kind of getting to see the whole scientific process through and through and see different research methods when it comes to sea turtles. Super cool experience also in Costa Rica. And then we also have our Amazon and Galapagos Eco Adventure, which is definitely more geared towards wildlife biology. So you'll get to, again, visit different types of research centers, doing things like camera trap. You'll get to do animal surveys, helping with bird banding and mist netting. You'll get to learn a lot about the flora and fauna and general ecology of Ecuador, and visit one of the most amazing biodiversity hotspots, the Galapagos, where you'll see, anything from sea lions to blue-footed boobies, get to do some snorkeling and boat trips and some general research. So both are also very cool if you're looking to have animal experience in a different realm.
Awesome. All right, now we have some time for a Q&A. So if you have questions, we had a couple pre-submitted, and we'll look in the question box as well. But go ahead and type those in there if you have any. Also, we do have a promo code for those of you watching the webinar either now or the recording. You can save $200 on tuition for any of our 2025 trips through the end of the weekend. So that's Sunday is the 16th with the code FutureVet. And let's see, we've got one here, the ages of middle school students. So the ages at Broadreach, we do it based on the current grade that they're in. So if your student is in 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade right now, then they would be eligible for our middle school trip, versus if they're in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade now, then they would be eligible for the high school trip. Let's see. We had another question submitted asking about travel day. So how does travel down to either Costa Rica or the Bahamas work? How do flights work and arrangements for arrival and departure? Savannah, do you want to take that one or do you want me to?
Yeah, totally. So typically on our program, students fly alone to the in-country airport. Sometimes parents will fly with them if that's something that's more comfortable. But our staff wait for the students right after customs. Students get video of the staff ahead of time, so they can see what they look like. And then students also get a Broadreach t-shirt. Staff are wearing the Broadreach t-shirt just to make them also a bit more visible. And then once we have collected your student, we will give you a call on their cell phone. They'll talk to you, we'll talk to you, just to make sure everything is good. And then sort of on the way home, we will take the students to the airport, help them get checked in, help them go through or get to security. And then we'll stay at the airport until the students are on the plane and the planes have left, so that if anything happens, we are there to collect them if need be. We do have departure and arrival windows. For these two, generally, we ask that they arrive between 12 and 5 and leave no later than 3, which you will get a sheet for once you enroll as well, or we can share that information with you via email too. And we are always able to help book flights if need be. We have a partner called Sequel, who you'll get a link to as well that can help book flights if.
Awesome. Have a question. How are valuables stored, like passports and money? I can answer that. So yeah, the instructors after on arrival, they'll do some different orientations, including part of that is taking their passport and keeping them for safekeeping. Any spending money they have, they'll also keep it in a special envelope, and then if they have an opportunity to buy souvenirs, what have you, they can take it out and give it to them, and then kind of they do a recording to make sure what comes in and out of their envelope. So they do hang on to that for students. Um, and asking about other than air travel and incidentals, if there are any other costs. No, apart from the airfare is the big one that's not included. Also, we do require insurance if anything were to happen on the trip, which usually depends on the state you're located in and the length of the trip, but it's usually under $200, I want to say, for that. And then just spending money, I'd say maybe $100, but that's kind of if they want to buy souvenirs or like buy an ice cream, but all meals and activities and everything is all included in that price. Awesome. We had another question submitted. Savannah, do students need to speak Spanish on the Costa Rica trip?
Students do not need to speak Spanish on the Costa Rica trip. All of our partners are bilingual, so students can speak Spanish if they want to and practice it out, but it's not required. And then one of our instructors will also be able to speak Spanish, so that if we're ever in any tight spots and need somebody's help, our instructors got it.
Awesome. Okay. What type of cameras can they use if they don't have phones, or do you allow them to use them for photos? Yeah, so Broadreach is a phone-free experience. So we will, along with the passports, that will collect the phones. They'll return them usually about once a week. We do calls home, or if they should need to get in touch with you for something else, of course, they can request to have those back to make the call, or they can use an instructor's phone. But as for taking photos, we have a couple phones, including one kind of student phone that students can use to take pictures that doesn't have access or is not connected to the internet. And we'll share those pictures as well as pictures from instructors' phones. Other times, students will bring, a good old-fashioned digital camera we've seen, and then GoPros and things like that are also popular options. All right, I don't see any other questions now. If you think of questions, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. I wrote Savannah's email there. You can also email brhq@gobroadreach.com if you have more of a general question. But we love answering questions and talking about our trips and meeting your students. So thank you so much. I will send out the recording later this afternoon. And if you have questions, we hope to hear from you.
Thanks, everyone.